Tim, I just can't do it anymore. What is it? What can't you do anymore? What can't you do anymore? Just, you really lost me with the whole tapping thing. Seriously? You act like that's a Series 9 feature and you couldn't add that to older watches? Well, I mean, that's clearly, it needs a more sophisticated algorithm thanks to the S9 SIP. No, it doesn't. Tim, you're lying right now. It's true. I don't know what to say. It's totally true. Was this Craig's idea? It sounds like Craig. Craig's idea. I promise. Okay, you've still lost me, but if you're not going to give me what I want on the iPad or on the Apple Watch, then I'm just calling it quits. You will never be on my nice list. Let's explain the damages. Alright, so about a month ago or so, I realized that when I was done traveling, I didn't want to feel attached to my Apple Watch all the time because, for one, watchOS 10 was annoying me like crazy, but on top of that, I took it off and I realized like how much of a bodily influence the Apple Watch is on me. Not only does it leave a super noticeable tan line, which isn't the end of the world, but also just comparing it to my right wrist, it's like noticeably thinner here. It feels like my body has adjusted to there being a bit of pressure from the watch band, and it's clearly not the same over here. So the more I was looking at my wrist without the Apple Watch, the more I was realizing, man, okay, this technology, it's so useful, and you know, we're tracking all of this health data with it, and it's so important, and we track all of our vitals with it, that it's actually affecting the way our bodies look. And it also affects my mindset a lot when I'm in the middle of a conversation, or if I'm in the middle of enjoying a moment and then I get that tap and I need to know who's trying to reach me. Is this an important message or is it not an important message? Should I respond right away? Should I not respond right away? And sure, my answer on whether or not Apple Watches are worth having has definitely changed. I used to be one of those guys that felt naked without it and didn't want to go anywhere without wearing it because it just let me stay in contact with people and I wanted to be available. That was like important, I guess, for me. But as of lately, you know, as I'm trying to be more minimalist with my tech and trying to figure out how I can get by with less and trying to downsize and minimize my whole ecosystem, you know, selling off the iPad and the Apple Pencil, downgrading from a newer iPhone to an older one that kind of gets the job done pretty well. And it's made me rethink, okay, what in the ecosystem do I use the least? What do I actually really need to get by in my day? Because I'm basically trying to set a good example that you don't need to have everything. I know that tech companies and a lot of tech YouTubers try to sell that vision of just like, oh, well, you gotta have this and you gotta have this and you gotta have this, and it can escalate pretty quickly to the point where you feel like, well, I didn't get the latest version of that, and I got the Ultra now, but now there's an Ultra 2, and I need to get the Ultra 2 to access that 3000 nits and the tapping feature, which has launched now, and it is so absurdly obvious that this is something they could have added to older Apple Watches and are just choosing not to. So that definitely put a sour taste in my mouth. It's like, okay, I could keep my Series 7 just for the sake of covering watchOS updates in the future, but now that I feel like every year they're going to be coming up with more software features just for the newer watch, not necessarily for older watches, it lost a lot of the appeal for just, oh, let's hold on to it for reviewing software's sake. And I've been trying to sell it for the past month and didn't really get many aggressive offers on it. I obviously was trying to sell it before the Series 9 came out. Now that the 9 came out, a lot of people who, in my opinion, don't even really know that much about Apple Watches lost a ton of interest in paying much for my Series 7 because they just all figured, well, it's old. It's from 2021. I want the newer watch. They don't really care about what features it has. They just want a newer one. But hey, with Apple software locking more and more stuff to the newer tech, I can't really blame the secondhand market for being more interested in the newer generations. Like, I just don't care what the features are or the durability is of that older steel model. The steel models definitely don't hold their resale value all that great. So I was actually just at a dinner party with some friends. One of my good friends actually had a Pixel for a while, but he broke it and got on some discounted deal with his carrier that offered him a new iPhone. So he made the switch from Pixel to iPhone and now was interested in getting an Apple Watch to go along with it. So he was like, yeah, I don't want to spend a lot of money on one, but I was thinking about buying one, and I literally had my Apple Watch on me at that time. So I just, took it off and I was like, how about this one? And he was like, oh, I didn't realize you were willing to sell it. And I was like, yeah, I've been thinking about selling it for a while, but I can't really find that many buyers. So just make me an offer. And we just settled it right then and there. I reset it on the spot, handed it to him so he could set it up, and he just Venmo'd me like $200, so not the most amazing deal in the world. Sure, I could have probably sold it online and found a better deal, but it was a good friend of mine, and $200 was more than what I was gonna get for it from what I could tell, and I wanted him to have a good deal on it. I also think more people who are interested in buying Apple Watches should prioritize getting a used one for cheaper so that they can have the sapphire glass display on the front, which ages so much better than the Ion X glass from the aluminum Apple Watches. But he was gonna spend around that on a used one on Amazon or something anyway, so I figured we'd just save some shipping, and I didn't have to pay for any online shipping or online merchant fees that you'd normally would have to pay if I sold it online. So I wasn't trying to sell it in like the most financial responsible way. I just wanted to kind of help him out anyway. And I must say, it genuinely feels really, really nice. Like, I just feel so much more clean and disconnected now when I go out. Like, I will check on my phone if somebody needs me. I will check my messages eventually. But in the meantime, I just feel open. Like, I just have a couple of clothes on and maybe some sunglasses, and that's it. I like traveling light. That's why I always use those Ridge wallets, and, you know, my car doesn't require a key fob or anything. So I appreciate the motions I'm going through now to try to get by with less, and also be open to using my phone with the ringer switch in the on position, because I realized that was a lot of the reason that I may not get back to people while not wearing my Apple Watch, because I just didn't want my phone to make noise. But perhaps if I'm more open and willing to change the way I use my phone a little bit, willing to hear the noise when I'm not necessarily right next to the phone, I can learn to get by without having to spend hundreds of dollars on a smartwatch every couple of years or so. And also, as I'm reviewing newer Android phones like the Pixel 8, which I'm actually recording this video on right now, it makes that transition outside a little bit of the Apple ecosystem that much easier, because before, if I insisted on keeping my Apple Watch, even with all of the watchOS 10 decisions that I don't like at all, then I would have been like, okay, what do I do with this watch? I don't really need this thing anymore because I can't pair it to an Android phone. So that whole transition going from iOS to Android for a few weeks or a few months, we'll see how long I can last, becomes a lot easier because I don't have to find something that's compatible with the Pixel, whereas my AirPods Pro, which I still have, can connect to an Android phone. So I guess the Apple Watch makes me feel a little bit more free to try out different hardware and different operating systems from different companies. And it really hasn't been that bad to not have the Unlock Mac with Apple Watch feature, because Touch ID still works really reliably and very quickly on my Mac. And really, the only times you saw me wearing the Apple Watch over the past month was because I just wanted to be somewhat available if someone needed anything while I was in the middle of working. But honestly, there was just a couple of times someone was trying to get a hold of me that it took a little bit longer for me to get back to them, but not common enough for me to justify keeping the entire watch. The truth is, I could probably get the exact same job done with an Apple Watch Series 3 or Series 2. So if it really starts coming up a lot in my life, then maybe I would consider downgrading to an even cheaper smartwatch in the future. But maybe it's not necessarily something running watchOS, or, you know, if I switch to a Series 3 that's not capable of running watchOS 10, maybe I get a lot of my gestures and button preferences back, because watchOS 10 kind of sucked for me. So how are you guys feeling about your Apple Watches? Do you still feel like you need them or use them regularly, or do you feel like it's just kind of one of those things you check the time with? All that good stuff. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and thank you to everybody supporting this channel directly. Seriously, helps out a ton, as does just watching these videos. So thanks again. This is your Apple Sheep, and I'll see you in the next one.